The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit givestarquest.com. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel is Thomas Sanjurjo. Hey, Thomas.
Hey, Dom.
So let's get right into today's topic. This is one that you brought to the table, and it's an article from European point of view, where this fellow he titles it "Bye Bye Big Tech: How He Migrated to an Almost All EU European Union Stack and Saved €500 a Year." So, what's this about, and what made you interested in this topic?
So this one to me was just kind of like I was doing sort of a tech audit on myself and kind of thinking about, okay, where do I sit in all of this tech stuff, right? So especially there's a lot of calls for boycotting and for getting out of some of these big environments that we get stuck in politically. But then I was just really thinking for myself in general, like, where am I in all of this stuff? So what are the things that I'm locked into that I can't get out of, or that I'm so dependent on that I don't have an option for? And I got rid of Facebook a long time ago. I was on Twitter for maybe like 3 months and then decided that it was not my space. I did not like it.
Not my space.
Not my space. Completely different. but I didn't enjoy the way that I was interacting with things on it. And I didn't enjoy the person that I was being. And the Facebook, I was, social media director for a parish for a while and learned the ins and outs of how everything was working on there, and got to see, I think the more involved you get with it, the more you realize how dangerous it can be. So that's kind of that side of it. So I really don't have a social media footprint other than basically, I think my two big ones right now are Reddit and Substack. And that's kind of where I spend the majority of my time. And those are mostly like microblogging or like very focused interests, kind of things. So I got to thinking about, the rest of my footprint. And then I was thinking about the fact that I'm Google is my thing, so I'm not on the Mac side of the house. So I'm not inside of the iPhone environment, but my Google password is my Gmail is basically attached to every single account that I own on the internet. And I was really kind of disturbed by that, first off. and then was thinking just on the hierarchy of where these corporations fit in the big, making sure we have to rely on them not to be evil kind of thing. I was really questioning that. And so the two that I was trying to get rid of specifically were Amazon and Google. That's really, I want to try and get out of their environment as much as I could. And then that started me down the path of looking at what my alternatives are. And this article was fantastic because it talks about sort of the core issue is really that walled garden concept that these companies are really pushing for, is this walled garden concept. And one of my favorites, it wasn't this article that said this, but it was another one that was similar where a guy he's gone completely off of tech. So he's tried to get himself as much off of tech as he can, not in the sense that he's a Luddite and hates tech, but that he wanted to get back to the way he felt before all of this walled gardening started happening, where things were interesting and he was involved. And one of the things that he said was, if you ask people what their values are, virtually no one will say convenience, yet that's how we make so many of our choices. And so I wanted to get away from that. I'm just doing this because it's convenient or it's just easy. Google owns all of my stuff. So I'm just going to stay with Google and move along that way. So that's where I got started. And one of the great things was this other article that I was reading as well. He has an audit of your tech space, the tech that you're using, and then kind of gives you a questionnaire, drop-down questionnaire of where does this stack up? How dependent on this thing are you? Can you disconnect from it? Are you planning on disconnecting from it? And then how malevolent do you feel like the company is that
or
you're
the device
using?
or the technology
device,
itself,
yeah.
right? Because I noticed in this spreadsheet, it's an Excel spreadsheet. Like he could have several different devices or tech pieces of technology from the same company, and some he considers malevolent, and some he considers benign.
Right.
And so so it's not so it's not like against any particular company. In fact, it's like
100%.
It's pretty much every big tech company is represented on this list. I think. I find this an interesting topic because I'm a little torn on it because I'm of an age where I remember before we had all this stuff and looking forward to the future when we would have all of this amazing technology and computers you could talk to and they would do the things and you'd carry communicators in your pocket and all this stuff and now we have it and now we're all like now we need to get rid of it. I'm like, but I just got it.
Go back. It's not what we wanted.
Right. I mean, yeah.
I joke with people a lot. I was talking with you before the show about it, but I really do. I joke with people a lot that it feels like we landed in like a really bad, a really not epic version of cyberpunk, right? Where it's not cool. It's not like the AI came in and took over and did all of this war stuff. It's just ads everywhere, like AI ads and algorithms all over the place.
It's a little bit more Minority Report than it is, and Blade Runner with all the ads. Although even Blade Runner was cooler than our present.
It was.
I was saying it's the Idiocracy version of the future that we ended up with. More than anything. I understand. Like I feel similarly about things. I don't feel as strongly as these guys do. These two different articles that we'll put the links in the show notes about getting disconnected from these things. But I do have similar feelings about there are certain elements of tech that I would like to maybe not into that extreme, but to kind of separate from a little more than I have. Like I don't have TikTok. I've never had TikTok on my devices. I don't want TikTok. Partly because the old reason was I didn't want the Chinese Communist Party to have access to my phone. But now that we've supposedly separated from that, I just don't. I just know that the algorithm there is malevolent. It is designed to suck me in, and if I give it the opportunity, it will. That's why I've kind of stopped looking at Instagram. Pretty. Actually, I almost gave it up. But I still get sucked into YouTube Shorts and Facebook and X. I just spend way too much time in all three of those things, and they don't really add to my life. And frankly, Facebook has become, since you've been there, it's gotten worse in the sense of it's so much junk. It's not even my friends. It's not even, like it'd be one thing if it was just my friends arguing about politics, which would be bad enough. Now it's just like a bunch of nonsense, like ads and random pages and junk, and yet I'm scrolling through it when I'm bored. Like no. In fact, I have a featured pick of the week that's designed to give me something better to do with my time when I have free time, which is to read books as opposed to I have to show it to you when we're done because I don't want to take up the time of the show with it now. That it's this open source e-reader, really small. Yeah, it's really cool.
This sounds amazing.
I keep talking about it on the show. I mean, one of these days I'm going to make it my pick of the week. But it's like I don't like the how I feel after being sucked into the tech, and I don't like how I feel about how much stuff I buy from Amazon. And in fact, I've actively tried to start buying things like, does Walmart have it? When Walmart's the alternative,
right, and that's one of the conversations that Alicia and I had when I started kind of down this path was, okay, fine. She wanted a protocol. She wanted to say, okay, we cannot get rid of Amazon, which is frustrating to me, but I get it, right? So what's the protocol? Well, only shop there twice a month, right? Like just put the stuff in the cart and leave it, and then make a decision on it later, right? So that it's not something that you're just immediately clicking and so that you don't get that buzz of the convenience of doing it. And then the second thing is too, not buying from brands we don't recognize. So, and it's funny because like in our house, we're all like, oh, Temu's bad. That's awful. That's like Chinese ripoff stuff. But then you go to Amazon and you've got the 7-consonant name brand on something, and is it really any better?
Yes.
So those are our two big decisions there. Like we're going to push all of that off. And then if we do need something sooner, or if you need it from a particular, if you can't find a brand that you recognize in Amazon, go and search the internet for it. So go to thrift books for books, or go to publishers or whatever you're looking for. Just go to the website of that company and see if you can find it there instead.
That's like I've made a switch from I use Kobo for all my ebooks now instead of Amazon, just because of their Kindle policies. But I think one of the things I've been trying to do is whenever I need to make a purchase is I want to find a list of e-commerce sites that are reliable alternatives to Amazon, like that cover that Amazon, and go to those first. And then if they don't have it, go to Amazon.
Right.
But yeah, it is too easy to just, when have we ever as a society been so dependent on a handful of, like so tied into certain companies, just a handful of companies? I mean, I was like thinking about it before, and I was thinking, like maybe when we had the company town, like, you worked in the mine and the mining company also ran the local store and, owned your house and you paid rent to them. And it kind of feels a little like we're in the midst of that.
Yeah.
And that's good.
Anybody who's interested in a game that does that in a retro futuristic society, Outer Worlds, there's 1 and 2 now. They just released a sequel. I haven't bought the sequel yet, but absolutely loved the first game, and it has that feel to it, like everything's owned by the corporation, and so it's very dystopian. Okay. but they're good with the humor is good there too. So it's got a lot of really good like retro futuristic humor involved in the so you don't ever feel like super depressed playing it, but at the same time, it deals with some heavy stuff. So that's But I think like kind of the reason that I like this article, particularly about the EU, is because I feel like a lot of the decisions that the EU has made around consumer protections has been really good. And you see that going all the way back to like the GDPR. And this is one that I deal with on a daily basis in my job, like the rationale behind why this exists and the fallout that I see from it, like kind of on the other side of like dealing with data and just how much data there is in all of these companies' buckets. It makes me look at these companies in the US that don't have quite as many restrictions on them because they're based in the US. So they haven't had to deal as directly with this until they get into some kind of legal trouble or financial trouble for it. So they aren't as beholden to this kind of rule structure. Whereas there's a lot of companies in Europe that immediately pivoted and adapted to this because they knew it was going to be their new reality.
Right.
And they did it. And so that's kind of why I like this idea of like migrating off of American tech and onto EU tech.
Right. Okay. So yeah, because while some American companies or most American companies have had to kind of do the GDPR thing because they do business globally, it doesn't mean that all of their tech policies have migrated to a European Union, more consumer-friendly format. So, this guy who happens to be in the EU in this article, but that doesn't mean it's just for Europeans. That Americans can benefit from this as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's look at his article focuses mainly on the tech he uses and it doesn't kind of approach e-commerce and stuff like that we were talking about. But let's kind of go down through his rationale, what he looks at, and what kinds of things we might want to move away from or move to, from American to a European company. So the core components here are email and calendar, online cloud storage, password management, a VPN, generative AI, online note taking, video calling. These are all aspects of tech that are generally widely in use. Most people use some subset of these, probably most of these.
Although the VPN was one that was really interesting here too, because I feel like most Americans don't know the ins and outs of the VPN as well as people in other parts of the world because of geofencing and geolocking on content. So people in a lot of other places in the world use VPNs regularly to break out of the geolock that they're in, where they only get recommendations for their region.
Right.
And they want to watch a show that their US friend is watching.
Right. And most Americans, they see that when they want to watch like British television.
Exactly. Yeah.
But also the VPN, which gives, it gives you the ability to not be locked in when you're doing like searches or interacting with companies, for them to only show you the things relevant to or designed to appeal to a particular geographic location. So it's a way to break out of that, and also to keep your point of origin, in that sort of stuff private. So that's good too. So the what do I say, the technology company that really kind of fulfills the biggest chunk of this is a company called Proton. We've mentioned them before. They're based in Switzerland, I think, still, right?
Yes. Yep.
Partly because Switzerland has the strongest privacy protection laws in the world. I think it's pretty widely recognized. The whole Swiss banks thing,
right?
And so they get to be as private as possible.
Yeah, and that's the first thing my kids ask me is like, well, why is it important that it's Swiss privacy? Because you go to their website, that's like one of the first things that they say right at the top is like Swiss privacy, and that's kind of their highlight. And so we got to talking about the idea of Swiss banks and things like that. But the ecosystem's really great. The one thing that's really that I found is a barrier to me, and this was one that I have to suck up and just go and do, was that it's a pay service. You have to pay an annual fee for the service. Whereas with Gmail, you get all of this for free, quote unquote, right? Like you get a lot of this stuff like for free. Yep. And you always have to. I've always been a proponent of if you're getting something for free, you are the commodity, right?
Right.
So you always have to remember that.
For it, you're the product.
Exactly. And that's one thing you have to keep in mind. So when you go and try and evaluate this stuff, you have to think about that.
Yep.
That being said, the membership is not much, and you get a lot more value than you do with Google without having to buy a bunch of extra gear. So like with Google, you don't get some of these things like the password manager and things like that. You kind of have to buy into their ecosystem, to have that stuff. With Proton Mail, it's all included. So like once you get the Proton package, it's all kind of like that. You have access to all of those apps by virtue of being in the membership. Right.
Let's go through some of that. So their Proton Unlimited package, which gives you access to all of the apps, it's $10 a month if you get an annual. It's always if you pay annually. So it's about $120 a year for this, which isn't bad, especially if you like a Google One account is similar. So what do you get with that? So they have Proton Mail, and let me go back to this. They also have individual, family, and business plans. So there's more. It's a variety of things. So they have a email, VPN, cloud storage, password manager, a Docs. So like Google Docs, they have Proton Docs, Sheets, a calendar, authenticator, like a two-factor authenticator program, which is separate from the password manager. Wallet. So they have like a Google Wallet or Apple Wallet. They have a wallet app. How widely accepted it may vary. So to keep in mind some of these things. And they're in beta on a Meet, like a video, like a Zoom alternative. And they have this Lumo AI, which we can talk about a little bit too, which is a generative AI system.
Which you're not going to get away from. Anywhere you go, you're going to have somebody that's building their own AI.
like everything else, it's privacy focused. So, they're not collecting your data and, using it to train the AIs and all that sort of stuff.
Which is, that's one of the things. Like I was in the process of making this decision, and suddenly my Gmail has started summarizing my emails for me. Thank you so much, Gemini. And it's like, it's even if they say that they're not doing anything nefarious with it, they're obviously reading my emails. Right.
And they've been reading our emails for, all along too. I mean, that's clearly, you get ads and you get, the only way for them to be able to prioritize them, is to know what's in them. And so that's, they've been doing that. Yeah. So two other things that I think are worth mentioning here too. Because of the privacy focus, they have a really easy way to encrypt emails end to end. And it's essentially just you encrypt the email, you send it to the person, they get a link to click on it, and you give them the password offline so that they can open the email. They click on the link, they enter the password, it comes right up. So it's not the best method of encryption. There are better methods of getting actually high security emails from place to place. But for ease of use and for the average person who's thinking about getting into sending encrypted emails or something, something where they're worried about maybe being intercepted, that's really great. That's a super, that is a super good way to do it. Right. Their family plan, I'm just looking at that.
It's not bad.
6 users for $24 a month.
Yeah.
That's better than a lot.
And you get 50 some odd emails too. So it's not like the other side of that I was worried about was like, what does that mean? 6 users? Does that mean that I can't have my kids on? Well, my kids would get their own email. Then we would just have like a place that they could log in to view it. And so they would have like, I'm probably going to do 5 users and then one that's like a family user that everybody will have access to be able to get into their email.
Right.
But, yeah, I'm going to sort all that out. But it's really, and that 6 users comes also with the VPNs. You can have VPNs on up to 10 devices for each user. So it's
for each user,
it's like 60 VPNs that you can have. So there's lots of really great options there. And the storage that you get by default is 3 terabytes for that it gets distributed amongst those 6 users, but that's still 3 terabytes. That's a whole heck of a lot more than you get with anybody else.
Yeah. I mean, what is Apple gives you like 5 gigabytes off the bat, and you pay for everything above that. So yeah, I mean, I think I'm paying for, I think with the Apple One, you get like 1 or 2 terabytes and more is extra as always. And I'm paying way more than $24 for that.
Right.
So that's the Proton part of it, and then there's he says he's got this mixed AI strategy where he's got the Proton Lumo AI, which is a generative AI, which he says it's good for quick private queries, but it's not that powerful. So he was talking about another one called Mammoth, or it looks like Mammoth, but it's with an OUTH,
right?
And that's it says that it gives access to every major AI model for €10 a month, but it's sort of like a privacy shield in between, right? Is that what? Yeah, that's what it looks like to me. Yep.
Yeah, and that's I'm interested. I need to do a little bit more deep dive on this, but it's really cool. Like it's one of those things where it sort of layers an agent on top of your AI, so you pass it a question and it kind of makes a decision about what the best AI to pull back a response from it is. So if you're going to generate an image, it's going to grab one of the image generation AIs that's a little bit better at what you're doing. But if you're going to look for code or something like that, it's going to try and grab something from Claude to try and generate some information there. So it's kind of like an abstraction layer on top of AI, but it's also making a few decisions for you about what the question that you have is. So anybody who's used AI in any kind of capacity beyond just toying with it knows that Claude's good for code, chat's good for kind of quick response or summaries, and then you go to like one of the other ones for image generation, but they all have their own little thing that they're really good at. This kind of takes that level of know-how off of the top and just lets you slide into figuring out and letting the AI do a little bit of that work for you.
Right. And again, like if you don't want to, like you don't have to do all of the things here. If you want to like pick and choose and say, "Ooh, I want to use Mammoth as a way to get around having to, be exposed on all the AIs," you can just do one of them. So I like that idea. And so from there, there's we talk about browsing. So browsing, search, and language is a category. So for a browser, he's going to use Vivaldi, which is as alternative, open source alternative to all the majors. Not Firefox.
I prefer Vivaldi too myself, just because it's based off of the Opera system, so it's even more abstracted. Firefox, to be honest, is pretty good. So if you want to go with one that has a little bit less kind of evil bent under them, Firefox is not bad. Firefox does still do some data collection and ad generation based on your user. So there are some variations that strip all of that out as well. So if you wanted an open source alternative, you can get some, like IceFox does the stripping out of all of the data collection, stuff like that. Okay. I like the experience of Vivaldi, to be completely honest. I have it on my mobile, I have it on my desktop, and flipping back and forth between them is really easy. It does the ecosystem stuff really well without then also adding that layer of tracking you on top of everything.
Okay. And it integrates with Proton, it looks like, with the Proton VPN.
Yep. Yeah.
That's cool. And then for search, he uses Ecosia, which is, we've talked about Ecosia, haven't we?
Yeah, it's the one that plants trees. So every time you search, it like adds some like you put credits toward planting trees with the search. So now, to be aware, there's like some ad generation in there, and that's how they're able to plant trees when you're searching. But at least you're getting some value in the world for your attention being eaten up by this the search engine.
And the other one folks might want to look at too is Kagi Search, Kagi, at Kagi.com. No ads. They pledge no surveillance, no noise, but you pay. It's again, you're if you're not paying, you're the product, and so if you're paying, you don't have to worry about them monetizing you. So it's like $5 to $25 a month depending on what you use. They have a browser and they have other stuff too with it. So there are other alternatives out there from the ones we're going to mention. This is just the ones that this guy uses. He mentions he uses DeepL for translation instead of Google Translate. Which
this one's really interesting.
Better.
Yeah, it does a better job. Now, I haven't tested a lot of languages. I'm trying to learn Chinese at the moment, so that's one that I thought would be interesting to try and throw through this. And as far as I can tell, it does a pretty decent job. And it's not like Google has done a lot of work trying to make their product really conversational and not learning based. So it's not teaching you anything while it's doing it. It's just giving you the direct translation. So it's just saying, here's the way to say that. And which is good. I mean, that's an effective thing that you want. This one gives you a little bit more in-depth information about what you're doing, and it's a little bit more customizable too, which is kind of neat. Okay. But yeah, I haven't played around with it too much, but what I've seen of it has been pretty cool. And from a teacher's standpoint, it's pretty cool.
You gotta I have to get this link from. Okay, the link in this article goes to the German version. I'm like,
right.
I don't read German, so it's kind of hard to work with. There's the English version of it. I'll have to look at that AI. So it's an AI based translator. Yeah, because like you said, Google Translate is very literal, whereas this it could be better. So okay.
And then this one allows you to translate files and stuff too, and the user interface is very clean as well. So it just kind of is there. It's like its own thing. So you're not then stuck in, like with Google Translate, I feel like it's just strapped on top of Google so that they can also kind of do some scraping and advertising and all that kind of stuff on top of it as well.
So, and then for site hosting and domains, Scaleway, which is a European domain host.
This one I haven't looked into, so I'll be honest with this. I don't know anything about this. I'm a no IP guy, so that's I just let all my stuff run through no IP, and that's mostly because I don't want to have to mess with, like, I have a server in my house, and so my IP address changes every time the power goes out.
Right,
I need it to be able to. I need to run my Minecraft server so people can actually get to it.
Right. So okay, now, and that's sort of a specialized thing. Not everyone's going to have their own website. For task management, he mentioned Superlist, which is it's not one I know of, but there are lots of task management apps out there, and there's cloud-based and app-based. So if you don't need to have a to-do list that syncs with other people, it might be pretty easy to find one that is pretty private, that just resides on your device, so not as big a deal.
Well, if you end up going with Proton 2, your shared calendar is a really good way to track things via a team. And this is more like this one. I don't agree with the replacement that he's saying here. From what I've seen, this looks more like a task board than like a ticker where you're checking off your tasks.
Yeah.
So it's more like one of those things where you have, like, when you have a team that's working together and you've got like a flow board of things that you're trying to get done. That's what, from what I can tell, that's what Superlist looks a lot more like.
To-do lists and project management software is very particular. Like, it really, the way, there's so many different ways to approach it. And so it really depends on how you do it. And that's why, some people swear by Things or Todoist, or I'm an OmniFocus guy. And OmniFocus is just how my brain works best.
Right.
And I don't even use it necessarily the GTD way. It works for me. And so, that's a very particular thing, is the to-do list, task management. Yeah. So when it came down to it, he compared, is how much more is this going to cost me to switch away from American to European tech companies? And maybe it doesn't surprise you, maybe it will surprise you. He saves a lot of money a month. He went from paying 83 euros a month to 39 euros a month. Now, that's not necessarily going to be everyone's experience, especially maybe because he's in Europe, it makes it less expensive than maybe he's paying more because of exchange rates or whatever it was. But nevertheless, it doesn't have to cost more to break away from the big tech companies.
And to get more service. And some of it too is when you think about things like the storage space that you're getting on, like Google gives you some storage for free, but it's so little that you're definitely going to have to pay to upgrade. There's just no way you're not going to do it. Yeah. And then they do these incremental, like, okay, well, if you want 16 gigs, you can pay this much, but if you want a terabyte, you can pay. And it's like, who wants 16 gigs? That's stupid. That's no better than having your free version of 5.
There's some marketing guy used some algorithm to determine that if you offer them this, they'll buy that. And that's why that's there. So he mentioned some challenges and limitations. There are certain things he just couldn't get away from or couldn't substitute. And he mentioned, like, social platforms and network effects that remain unavoidable if you want to stay connected. So he talks about there is no real alternative to LinkedIn, GitHub, YouTube, Medium, and Substack. Those are, although, I mean, there are open source versions of GitHub, right? Isn't there what's it called? There's, but the connectivity aspect, the connecting with people aspect is I think the important part is you just, if you need to be connected to people, social media, et cetera, or if you want to have YouTube, or if you want to have something like Substack, you really, you can't, there's no real substitute for that. So
yeah. And I think it's Salsa is the GitHub alternative. At least that's the one I've seen used a lot.
Okay. He talks about also, what were the other one? single sign-on and convenience trade-offs. Or OAuth, or however you want to put it. The ability to use your Google sign-in or your Apple sign-in or your Facebook sign-in, which is less common everywhere, as instead of having to use, the username and passwords that are individual to each site, that goes away. You just can't do, you don't have the convenience of that. And again, that's something you were saying before, is the lack of convenience. Is convenience our number one value here? Right.
That's one that bothers me, because there are a couple of websites, Boy Scouts, My Scouting is one that I'm looking at. Oh my gosh. They finally got the Google integration, and it's like made me not hate to the degree I did the experience of going to that website.
Scoutbook, yeah.
I agree. But anyway, you're going to have to give up on the OAuth dream, which there was a time there. Maybe people missed it, but there was a time there where there were some really good OAuth specs coming up, and then Google just squashed them with kind of taking over the field and saying, well, everybody has a Google email anyway. Why don't you all just use it to sign into everything?
Now, I do feel like as passkeys are becoming more and more common, they may actually overcome that and become that convenience that we didn't have before. They don't work perfectly everywhere now. I mean, sometimes I have issues with the way it's sometimes you run into clashes, and it's like, put your sign-in key in here. You must need a hardware key, and it's like, no, I'm still unlocking one password. Just wait for that to unlock. It's like, so it's not perfect yet, but I'm hopeful that passkeys will become a good substitute for that. So, and then he mentions Office Suite, but you do get Proton docs and sheets. I haven't used them, so I don't know how good they are, but how good do they have to be?
I was kind of like on this part, I'm like, you must not use Office sheets or anything very often, because he was complaining about the replacement. And I'm like, I've been using LibreOffice forever, and it's really like much more intuitive, in my opinion, than Word ever was.
Right.
I can at least place a picture on the page without having it ruin everything.
Oh, you have a photo here. Let's move all the text to page 89.
Yep.
So yeah, and and it kind of actually connects to something like, sometimes though, you work in a particular industry or business, and you have no choice. This is you have to have Office, so you have to use Google Docs, and that's just the way it is. And I have a particular person that I work with on these shows who does everything in a Word document and will not use Google Docs. And so I have Word open on my desktop all the time. And then we have clashes when we're both in the same doc at the same time, and we have to, if we had Google Docs, we would do that.
It would just track us.
Yes. But, people get set in their ways. But companies get set in their ways. And sometimes you have to you got to do a PowerPoint. And a PowerPoint's a PowerPoint,
Yep.
Even with Keynote, sometimes you got to output it as a PowerPoint because it's got to be a PowerPoint. Just stupid. But if you're lucky, you don't have any of those things in your life. Any other closing thoughts on this particular topic?
I think one that I really liked from both of these guys was there is a sense of loss here, because there is an introduction of friction to your regular flow of things, which is bad, because that's sort of what these companies have designed their entire concept around, is how do we move people quickly from one thing to another so that we keep them engaged in our ecosystem. And both of them found that the friction was a benefit, that once they embraced the inconvenience and kind of really were questioning why they were doing these different things, they found that those points of failure, those slowing down bits, made them step back and take another approach, or step back and disengage. And it cost in the sense that it wasn't like just a free flowing movement from one thing to the next, but there was a benefit there that it brought them out of that kind of doom scrolling or, death spiral of just keeping moving that we tend to get into with tech.
Okay. Yeah, I like the friction is a feature, not a bug.
Mm-hmm.
In this, which in the sense of sometimes you need something that kind of, or at least makes it pause or have to step away or have to think about something other than the next dopamine hit when you're whatever breaking you out of it. Yeah, I agree. I think a little more friction in things is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, when you're trying to get work done, you want things to go smoothly, but when you, and maybe that's another aspect of it is, work versus non-work. With work you need smooth, but in your free time, maybe you don't need so much smoothly transitioning from one thing to the next in the system. I think that's a good point.
Yeah. I'm about to embrace the big friction for myself because I finally found a Linux phone that will work on my network that I want to dive into, and I know the experience of getting on Linux. So
I was just listening to a podcast today, and this guy was saying that he did the iPad mini as a phone for a month, where he got an iPad mini with cellular service, and he used it as his phone. So it's big and inconvenient. Okay. It's like bigger than a regular phone. And it was harder to, like, he could call people, quote unquote, on it. Like he could do FaceTime and that sort of thing and do FaceTime audio. And he could take calls using continuity. Like he had his regular iPhone like with him, but he wouldn't take it out of his pocket. But it used the iPhone to make regular phone calls or he could receive phone calls on it. And he just was that much is that inconvenient enough that he didn't want to spend all his time with it, scrolling and that sort of thing. And it's like, That's interesting. I wonder once we get these foldable phones become more ubiquitous, whether they lead to, I mean, they made them foldable so that they're frictionless, I guess. So the iPad mini doesn't fold. So that's what makes it gives it more friction. So I don't know. I'll be curious. That's a discussion for another time, I guess. But I like this idea, like to talk about like being intentional with your tech, being intentional with your use of tech, and not necessarily just taking the easy route all the time. Something to keep thinking about. All right, let's take a moment now to thank our patrons and make it possible for us to create the secrets of technology, including Trez G, Hasidi E, sorry, that's not a familiar name to me, Hasidi E, Chris K, Walter G, and Daniel. Their generous donations at GiveStarQuest.com make it possible for us to continue the secrets of technology and all the shows at StarQuest, and you can join them by visiting GiveStarQuest.com. So we have a couple of headlines, and the first headline it's actually a YouTube video, and then there's also another article that connects to it. But both of them are about this bill that's up in the Washington State Legislature that is ostensibly about preventing people being able to 3D print firearms. But what this video, the video title is Not Just Printers, It Bans Everything, from Loyal Moses is the YouTube channel. What the video points out is when you look into the text of the bill, it actually goes way beyond that. It actually includes any type of how do they put it? Any type of device capable of fabricating a part, whether it's subtractive manufacturing, CNC mills, lathes, which is like one of the most basic of all industrial tools, lasers, anything. And it includes things like creating a database, requiring manufacturers to be able to have a list of things that won't print, and then a database controlled by the Attorney General of the state of those parts, and then a reporting structure for people who do print things. And he goes down the rabbit hole on it, in which basically it's basically a total crackdown on all kinds of manufacturing, and in which would potentially go way beyond the borders of Washington State, because as he points out, Bamboo and Creality and Prusa, they're not going to make Washington State specific versions of their software and hardware. They'll put this in all of their software and hardware, and that opens the door. What do you think of this? I mean, I know what you think of it, Thomas.
Yeah.
Give us your take on it.
You know me. The really concerning part here is that there's already laws that restrict these things, and that to me, it's really bothersome when we get to the point where there's some kind of fear stirred up about a thing that already has a law that's governing it, and that's moving into the territory of, by the way, we want to control what you're able to do with your thing in a way that's going to make it so that we have to watch everything you do. So this is very big brothery, right? Where like the mandate is to have a printer be able to scan for and reject files that are deemed to be illegal. How that's going to happen is anybody's guess, right? Because if everybody has to label their file as illegal firearm part, you have to have some control then over the management of the files. So is this going to be something that if I design something in my house on my 3D design software, that I have to register it with the state before I can print it on my printer? And that is going to kill 3D printing, the entirety of it, faster than anything possibly could. Because that's just the whole point, is that I want to iterate through something 10 times before I get the product that I want. And if I can't even print it without having to register it with the state first, that's just, it's insane. Like this is one of those spots where the legislators don't understand what they're saying, and they're not thinking through the law, in the sense that the law and the application of law is supposed to be a deterrent from people doing it. So what you say is, if you have one of these things that's illegally 3D printed, you get an extra penalty on top of just having a firearm in general, right? That's a sufficient law. Like, I'm all for that. That's great. If you 3D print a firearm and you use it for illicit purposes, then yeah, definitely there should be like an extra penalty on top of it, because you were getting around the system. Like it's an illegal firearm. That's what you were doing.
Right.
But then to say you can't even design it and print it, and by the way, we're going to check everything you're designing and printing because that's the only way to validate it.
Well, again, there's analogies to the Second Amendment debates here, because what you're doing is you're making everybody with a 3D printer potentially a criminal. Like you are criminalizing you're putting them all in the category of criminal, as opposed to the people who actually use the thing, whatever the thing is, for the bad purpose. And they talk about, like, today it's firearm parts, tomorrow it's Mickey Mouse logo stuff, or things that are copyrighted. And then there's even provisions in there for, well, if you have a federal firearms license, you're allowed to have, to not have these restrictions. Okay, so only people who have officially licensed by the state are allowed to have 3D printers. Does that sound good? I mean, it sets up this gigantic, as you put it, big brother superstructure of censorship and control and surveillance. That will just kill. It will kill the entire industry, because who would bother buying any of these things under these circumstances? Like, no one will. And as he points out in the video, you're not going to get around with it by building your own 3D printer from parts, because A, you still need the software, and B, the people selling the parts as kits, are there. They will track them down and they will sue them, and because it's the same thing. And you're not going to get away with it if you are. If you get one of the pre-legislation versions of the 3D printer, because as he points out, the software is going to need to be updated to include this. But even if you you don't update your version of the software, you'll print something out and then you'll show, someone and they'll report you like, hey, this guy's running an underground 3D printer, or like,
right.
You'll probably get away with it, but you might not. And you'll be a criminal at that point for having a 3D printer.
And then just like, you 3D print stuff, and that just invites people coming into your house to inspect your house. Like, is that what we're going to get to, where people have to actually like they actually are going to send people out to your house to inspect your 3D printer and make sure that it's so dystopian. Like, this is one of those where, like, I love 3D printing. I love the idea of having the freedom to do stuff. It's so cool. I get that people are using it for bad purposes, but you can drive over somebody with a car and it's just as deadly, but we're not like taking cars away from everybody, Right.
I don't know. There's so many things that are tools that can be used for good or for ill. Like, you can use a hammer to build a house. You can also use it to bash someone over the head. Like, but we're not banning hammers. So it's something to keep an eye on. If you live in Washington State, you should definitely contact your legislators. But if you live anywhere else, keep an eye out for these bills going up in your state, because when these things come around, they don't just come to one state. They often there are I forget what they call them, but they're sort of model bills, model laws, and so it's the basic framework that gets shared around. That's what a lot of these like legislature, state legislature conferences are about. They all get together in Hawaii or wherever and share these things with each other. So just keep an eye out for this in your own state. It might be coming for you eventually. And then, while we're on dystopian things, may as well go for another headline. Apparently, Microsoft gave the FBI a set of BitLocker encryption keys to unlock suspects' laptops. So there was a case out in Guam where the FBI was investigating fraud regarding the pandemic unemployment assistance program, the billions and billions of dollars. It's a whole nother discussion. But they had a couple laptops from suspects that they needed to get into. They had a warrant. They had a court order. So they went to Microsoft and said, give us the encryption keys. And Microsoft said, oh, yeah, we have those right over here. And that's something you should be aware of if you use BitLocker.
Yep.
For folks who don't know, BitLocker is an encryption, a whole hard drive encryption program, that's part of Windows that you can use. But Microsoft holds the keys. This is different from like an app with Apple and Macintosh. You have File Vault, but Apple doesn't hold the encryption key, which is dangerous if you lose your version of the key. You're hard. So you're out of luck, but it's good because then they can't give the key to anybody.
Right.
So
yeah, and this is one where the BitLocker, I wouldn't have expected this. Honestly, it's kind of surprising to me that this is the way that BitLocker was built. And one of the things here that I always like to point out is there are ways to get into these devices that don't require this type of scrutiny. I have ways that I can get into a Microsoft device,
right?
That does not require this kind of absence of ownership and control. If you want to get into these devices, you can. It's possible.
The FBI didn't have to go to, and that's the thing is I don't want criminals to get away with things. I mean, nobody wants that. But I also think, that doesn't mean that we should make life easy for law enforcement either. Like maybe they just have to work harder in a different direction instead of taking the easy route, which makes us all less secure because whenever there's a back door, it means somebody can use it. Yeah. Yep.
Like this to me is one of those things where it's like you say something like this and every hacker in the world, their ears are going up like, oh, really? BitLocker, Microsoft has all the BitLocker passwords, and and it's only a matter of time before there's some security breach there. Like and once it is, then all of those BitLocker passwords are out.
Yeah, they'll send out a notice to everyone. You have to change. Everyone has to change their BitLocker password, and it's going to be a big mess. And a lot of consultants are going to make a lot of money helping people change their passwords. Oh man, yeah. They say Microsoft says they receive 20 requests a year to hand over BitLocker keys. So, and most people didn't know that.
And they do it. Yeah. Apparently they do actually hand them over. So there you go.
So anyway, there are alternatives, right? There are like, for Windows, like you don't have to use BitLocker. There are other alternatives for whole disk encryption, which you should.
Yeah. And I recommend if you're interested in whole disk encryption, look at start by looking at the hardware that you have, because a lot of companies have physical encryption systems that are in the BIOS. It's a little bit harder to get to, but it's definitely vastly more secure and will provide you with the peace of mind of knowing that your device is secure if you want it to be.
Yes. Yep. All right. Let's move on to our picks of the week. And why don't you go first, Thomas? What's your pick this week?
All right. So my wife has been on a real kick doing a lot of health stuff. We were talking about consolidating our app spending towards the end of last year. And so I was like, okay, look, I know you have X, Y, and Z different health apps. Which ones are you going to commit to? And she's like, I don't know. Let me try them all out. Let me make sure that I like the ones that I like. So one that we've had for a while and that she's used before and has been pretty effective, but that she's really embraced is called Macro Factor. And it's an app it's more designed towards kind of fitness health than it is like weight loss specifically. So it's not as much of a calorie tracker as it is trying to track your macros. So how much protein, how much carbs, how much fat you're getting in your diet. And you can organize it and rearrange it and, get it to help you, and it'll keep you honest about, how much weight you're losing, things like that. It has a really effective AI system in it too. So she's gotten to, like I was joking with her the other night, she looks like one of those Instagram people that's always taking pictures of their food before they eat.
Right.
But 9 times out of 10, it gets close. And if you give it just a little bit of a hint, it will tell you what's on your plate pretty accurately. So she's been really happy with that, and how she can just take a picture of her food. She doesn't have to look up a recipe or anything like that. She just takes a picture of her food and it tells her more or less what's on her plate. And then she can go back and edit it afterwards if she needs to. They just did an upgrade this year as well, where they have a fitness portion that attaches to it. That is one of my favorite YouTube weightlifters, Jeff Nippard, is the kind of coach on the back end of that. So he shows how to do the workouts, and you can pick your home workout system. So you can tell it, I don't have anything. I've got like a 5-pound weight. That's it. And it will try and give you as many workouts that you can do without weights, or with whatever limited stuff you have, or with whatever fantastic stuff you have that they have in their repository of workouts. So really, really great system. Macro Factor, available both on iPhone and Android. So she's using it on iPhone and is loving it. So I recommend it. It's really neat.
As you'd expect from picked by Thomas, it's ad-free, privacy first.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's like you can do month to month, yearly, or every 6 months, which is a nice actually option if you want to just do a few months at a time. So it ranges from $6 a month on the yearly to $12 a month if you go month to month. So that's nice. Excellent. So my pick this week is speaking of ebooks. I was talking about ebooks earlier. Is a website called standardebooks.org. And they are another place where you can get public domain ebooks. And, like Project Gutenberg, you do that too. But these ones are designed and laid out professionally by like graphic designers. They are beautiful versions of public domain ebooks. And there's a lot of great ones. January 1st is Public Domain Day. There's a lot of stuff goes into the public domain. So they had a list on their site of the ebooks that they had added that were now in the public domain. And, Chesterton, there's like Orthodoxy, and what was the other one? Everlasting Man. Those are in the public domain. A bunch of Father Brown mysteries from him. But lots like Sherlock Holmes and Arthur Ransom Swallows and Amazons entered the public domain this year. So, which I hope someone grabs that up and makes a good movie. That's a great book to read with your kids. I like it for myself. So it's great. And again, it's all free, which is nice. And so what they say, they use modern, consistent typography. They do full proofing with careful corrections, and they have all the metadata and support for hyphenation and pop-up footnotes and scalable graphics, the whole 9 yards. So it's really nice. So check it out. I'm sure you'll find, if you like books, I'm sure you'll find something you like to read there.
And this, I cannot stress how important this is, because I, for the longest time, was trolling through my Amazon books back when I was using Kindle more heavily, and was just grabbing all of the free ebooks that they had on Amazon, and they were all terrible because they were all formatted so poorly, or they were just like a text block put into EPUB format, and so it just looked horrible and it was not fun to read. These look fantastic.
Yes, that's the thing, is it's if you've had experience with terrible ebooks in the public domain ebooks in the past, this is different, and it's compatible. You could put it on your Kindle, you could put it on your Kobo reader, your any e-reader device. You could put it on your in Caliber. It'll work with that, which is great software it's a cross-platform software for managing ebooks and stuff. So it'll work in it's EPUB, so it'll work anywhere. So definitely check those out. So that's it from us this time. We would love to get your feedback on anything we've talked about. You can send us an email to technology@sqpn.com. Visit the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/discord. You'll find links from our discussion and our picks of the week on our show notes at starquest.fm/TEC330. And of course, you can find previous episodes at sqpn.com/technology. And if you haven't done so yet, follow the Secrets of Tech in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, your favorite podcast app, or at our YouTube channel, youtube.com/StarQuestMedia, where you should hit the bell to get notifications of new episodes. And while you're there, at any of these places, write a review, give a star rating, whatever it is they let you do, and share the podcast with your friends. Help us grow this community and reach even more folks. So until next time, Thomas Sanjurjo, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology.
It's been great.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest. Here's another show on the StarQuest network you're sure to enjoy, The Secrets of Star Trek. Find it wherever fine podcasts are found, or at sqpn.com/Star Trek.